his line. I didn't think a cop with a nightstick was going to beat up an Oakland Raider in town for a playoff game, so I make a comment I regretted pretty quickly. I said, "Look, motherfucker, I'm going to my room." You called a riot squad cop a motherfucker. Why? Moore thinks for a second, then answers, "It's sort of what people say at times when they're pissed off." Well, it's definitely sort of what a badass would say, Stanford sheepskin or not. So then boom, this guy comes down on top of my head with a nightstick, which is like a baseball bat, solid wood. The next thing, I'm on the ground, and I got a guy on my chest trying to beat the shit out of me, and another guy holding my legs. I'm trying to cover up, and I get my hands pulled away, and bang, I get it again. You get hit by one of these things while you're conscious, you think you're gonna die. Motherfucker was Moore's first badass pronouncement, but he was just getting started. He lusted for Raider retaliation. Rationality had been replaced by badass instinct. They drag me away to a paddy wagon. I get in the back. The first guy comes in. I went after him, just attacked him, hit him with everything I had. He goes out and they slam the door. A couple minutes later, the driver comes back and says, "We're going to take you down and book you." I said, "Book me for what?" Then he sees I'm drenched in blood. He says, "No, we're going to rush you to the hospital." Turns out it wasn't bad. 7 stitches, cuts on both sides of my head. I was swollen like a son of a gun. I'm on the operating table, and the young surgeon says, "You're real lucky." I said, "You have to explain this to me. I don't feel very lucky." Turned out, the state of Pennsylvania had something called the Doctrine of Sovereign Immunity, which means you can't sue the city, only individual people. So he said, "Generally, guys who get this kind of treatment don't come here. We picked them up at the morgue after they dumped them in the river." I said, "Thanks, that's comforting." After they'd sewn him up, Moore was taken back to the police station to be booked. Madden was there. The mayor was there. The chief of police was there. But a deal was offered to Moore. If you don't sue the cop, you won't be arrested. His response would have done his teammates proud. I said, "Tell them to fuck themselves." Finally, Moore agreed to an alternative proposal. He wouldn't talk to the press while he was in town, and they'd let him go. The next morning in the locker room, I can't get a helmet on. So defensive lineman Kelvin Corver had a big head with, like, a size 8 helmet. They took his helmet, took all the insides out of it, and made these styrofoam donuts strapped to the inside. Everyone's crowded around me in the locker room before the game, right? So John walks up and says, "Hey, Bob, with all due respect, we got a football game today. Tell him to go away." Moore's red badge of courage no longer counted on game day. Still, there was something reassuring about a Raider striking the first blows a full day in advance of the actual game. "I don't remember a thing about the game," Moore says now. "I wandered like a mummy off the field knowing we lost, but I had to figure out what the hell happened." This, of course, makes Bob Moore unique among football fanatics. To the rest of the football world, what happened on December 23, 1972, remains indelible. What NFL films would come to call the greatest play in NFL history, in a game that arguably, despite its outcome, launched the Raiders' long, strange journey to the top, the catalyst for all to come. For the Steelers, the game lives on forever, and the play remains a singular moment of glory. How else to interpret the statue of favorite son Franco Harris planted in a concourse of Pittsburgh International Airport? Does it show Harris slipping a tackler's grip? Sprinting or rumbling toward one of his 91 career touchdowns? Does it commemorate any of the hundreds of other great moments in the immortal Franco Harris's Hall of Fame career? Of course not. It shows him reaching down to his shoelaces, gathering an errant football with his fingertips. For thousands